Alright, what's going on, fellas? Today we're going to tune the 2Fiddy, and I suspect that we're going to have a pretty big tuning window because it's not too different from like the typical heavier GoPro 5-inch rigs. The total thrust output power isn't the same, but it's also at a much lower all-up weight, and so I think the power to weight ratio on this guy is going to be a little bit higher, maybe even a lot higher than your typical 5-inch GoPro rig. I'll do some math and some estimations later just to confirm that. Now, I'm not going to go into depth about any of the how and why this works. If you want to check that out, I highly suggest that you check out UAV Tech's channel. Mark goes deep into that kind of stuff, and I'm actually following his tuning guides. I have been following his tuning guides, and I've been really happy with it. So the only thing that I also want to mention is that this quad is what I have been flying and bashing and crashing, not the one that I crash tested, but this is not perfect. This is absolutely less than perfect. I don't know if you can see that, but I've got dings on the motor. These props, they're not bent, but all four of them are scuffed up, and I've got one, yeah, that's pretty loose. I've got one motor bearing pretty loose. That one's got a little bit of play on it. That one's got some play on it. That one's actually still pretty good. So of the 4 motors, 3 of them has some play in the bearings. And so this is less than perfect. But the reason why I'm tuning it for this is because I want to tune my quad for the condition that I think is going to be in its most. And as a freestyle quad, less than perfect is the condition that it's going to be in most of the time. And so that's why I'm tuning it this way. I know ideally you want to tune it on a perfectly clean build, but let's just face it, guys, if you're building this for freestyle, it's not going to stay perfect for very long. The other reason I want to do that too is because I want to be able to, if I do crash and bend a prop or ding the motor or something like that, I want to be able to fly it back without the risk of burning up the motor, because let's face it, that walk of shame kind of sucks. So again, everything on here is completely default. Just to run over everything again real quick, we've got the HQ 5x3 bi-blade. This is the 2004 1600 kV, so I'm going to be tuning this on 6S. And the board that I've got in here that I'm going to recommend, because I've been really liking it, is the iFlight F7 Beast. And this is just the BL Heli S, just because I don't feel like the BL Heli 32 is absolutely necessary. We can get the RPM filtering by flashing some firmware on here. Alright, so let's get to it. Alright, fellas, so a couple more things to note. It's really windy out here, which I actually think is great, because now I know exactly how this quad will fly in windy conditions, and I can even kind of tune for it. And then the other thing is I do plan to check out the black box to confirm the tune, just to make sure that we do see an improvement. So you want to make sure that gyro scaled is enabled, as well as setting the frequency to 2 kilohertz. That'll give you the most data when it comes to checking out noise and filter and things like that. So, all right, here we go. All right, taking off. Normally what I do is I just kind of hover around for a little bit just to make sure I get a little bit of that kind of data. Then I'll do a little bit of forward flight where I don't touch the sticks. Again, it is windy, so it'll be really interesting to see what we find here. And then finally, some throttle punch outs. And I definitely see the wind affecting things. Some more full throttles. All right, let's do some rolls. Oh yeah, the other thing too that I don't really see a lot of people talk about when tuning is you want to set your rates to where you want them, and then that's where what you tune for. Especially if minimizing bounce back is important to you. If you got really high rates, well then you got to really be aggressive with your tune to get rid of bounce back. If you're like me, I usually am happy with 800 degree rates, which is actually not a whole lot. But for this video, I set my rates to 1,000 because I just want to try to get some bounce back out of it. I am really really trying to induce bounce back by being really sharp on the sticks. I think I did enough rolls. Let's do some backflips. Alright, let's do some front flips. Okay, so I mean, it feels really good already, which I feel like is just a good indicator that we're off to a good start. If this flies this well on default PIDs, well, I guess we'll find out. Let's see what we can do to push it. Let's take a look at roll first. Now look, this is the raw gyro data. As you can see, we've got some noise down here, which is perfectly expected, especially that this isn't less than perfect quad. But look down here, this looks good. Let's hit the shift mark. We've got the trough. Everything from here and down is just a quad moving. Anywhere between, like, I don't know, maybe 80, 70 to like 100 would like be prop wash. So it's actually not that bad at all. And then everything else is motor noise. So now let's take a look at, obviously after filtering, it looks pretty clean, which is to be expected. All right, so now we're looking at roll in particular, and what I'm looking at here is basically what the quad is doing relative to my stick movement. So set point, this color line right here is basically my stick move, and then this color right here is what the gyro actually did. Like, this is actually really, really good. If I want to be uber critical, there's this tiniest little bit of overshoot here. But the thing that I am kind of noticing here is that there's a little bit of wobble in the gyro once it hits it there. This might just be because it's really windy, but either way, we'll see what we can do about tuning it out. The other thing that I also want to point out here is that if we set a marker point here, so this is, let's mark that. So that is when, you know, I've hit the end point of my stick to when the quad actually gets to where I want it. Yeah, we'll call it there. Is so about 38 milliseconds. So right now there's about a 38 millisecond delay between what I am giving stick input to and what the quad is actually doing. So this is a freestyle quad. If this is like a cruiser, or if I was doing like cinematic stuff, I'd be really happy with this because I'm not needing it to be that responsive. But this is a freestyle quad, so we're going to see what we could do about shortening up that delay. Alright fellas, so step one, what we're going to do is we're going to go into the filters, and we are going to first try, we're going to leave everything the same, we're just going to first try turning off all of the gyro low pass filters, and we're going to go out for a flight. Again, we do not have RPM filtering, we only have just the D-term low pass and the dynamic notch filter. This is actually kind of pushing it, fellas, so I'm not expecting this to go successful. We'll find out. Alright, so when you get to this part, especially when you're starting to turn off filters, you always want to be ready to just disarm in case it starts to fly away on you. So here we go. Arming sounds good so far. Okay. Wow. Let's do some flips. Wow, okay. Not bad. Okay. That's pretty good. And I can actually feel a difference right now. It actually feels really that much more responsive. That was actually surprising. Remember, there is no RPM filtering. This is BLHeliS ESCs. It's windy out here. Let's go see what else we can get away with. Alright, so we've got the latest black box loaded. We are looking at the filtered roll plot here. And I can see that it seems to be letting a little bit more noise into the gyro. It feels fine, and if I wasn't going to do anything else with the PIDs, like, this would, you know, kind of pass. But I suspect that as soon as I start pushing the PIDs, especially the D value, this noise down here and up here is going to start being a problem. So let's go check out pitch. Again, we're looking at the filtered results. So same thing, it is letting a little bit more noise into the gyros. So here's what I'm going to do to combat that. I am going to install BLHeli-M onto the ESCs. If you want some details on how to do that exactly, I'll leave a link in the description below. But basically all you got to do is install the configurator and then plug in your ESCs. Of course, do this with your props off. Connect. We'll read the setup. And we'll hit flash all. And this already knows that I'm GH30, that's the ESC that I got, and you're going to flash BLHeli-M here, and you're going to hit flash. Also, take note, I'm going to leave this at 24 kilohertz just because 24 tends to give you a little bit more torque, and we obviously want torque, especially since we are kind of on the smaller side as far as the motor goes when it comes to a 5-inch prop. So once that is set, going to now go over back to beta flight. Now what we're going to do is enable RPM filtering, and you start off by going to configuration. We're going to enable bidirectional D-shot. We'll click save there, and this is an F7, so I should be fine running an 8K and D-shot 600 setting here. Then I'm going to go into our filter, enable Gyro Rpm Filtering. I'm also going to set this down to 2 because the third harmonic is like above 1,000 and we don't really care for that, especially on this build. Then we're going to do some settings that is pretty much the recommended. We're going to do this at 100 because I know over here we start to see some stuff right around at 100. So let's start off with 110. We'll do 110 here, and then we'll cut things off at 350, and we'll leave D term at default here at 1 for now. All right, here we go. Listening for anything weird, looking for any kind of crazy oscillations. So far, everything sounds good. Yeah, this feels butter. Remember, we are just on stock PIDs still, fellas. All right, let's bring it back and see what else we could do. All right, so now we've got the new log loaded and we're looking at the roll, and we've got a pretty decent improvement here. So this, I would call this pretty good. Let's check out pitch, and same thing. I mean, it looks like there's just like a little bit of stuff going on right over here, but this is something that I wouldn't be worried about. All right, let's see what else we could do. Let's go push D term. Let's see how far we can push this. Let's just see what happens if we go to 1.5. 1.5 is right when you notice like another pretty decent reduction in latency. If it can handle this, then great. Again, I'm not super hopeful because this is a less than perfect quad with 3 motors, again, that have somewhat loose bearings. All 4 props are kind of scuffed up. So we'll see what happens. Actually, you know what, I'm also, well, let's take a look here. Where is, yeah, so everything's already attenuated down low. Let's just double check roll. Yeah, everything. Okay, so we could probably go a little higher. Let's try like 125 here. And let's just see if something comes back. We'll also check what happens with the D term that high. Let's see if there's any weird noises or sounds. No way, it's good. Oh, there's a little bit. Jeez, they're not even warm. Not even warm, fellas. All right, so that last flight, hover and just regular flying, it felt and sounded fine. However, on like inverted like hang time kind of maneuvers, there was just like the slightest bit of flutter, which I might actually be okay with, just considering the fact that, again, this is a very, very much less than perfect quad, and it's also windy right now. But I'm gonna check the logs. Let's take the logs just to see if there's anything that might become a problem. So we're looking at roll right now, and this looks fine. So I'm kind of curious. It's probably on pitch. Let's take a look at pitch. Yeah, okay, there you go. So we've got a little bit, just there it is. It's just the teeniest bit. So our choices are, we could back down on the D term, or we could add a notch. But I'll tell you right now, I would rather not add a notch because that's going to increase latency. So I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to bring that D term low pass back down. Going that route, why am I not connecting? I feel like going that route is going to give us the better, lower latency end result here, rather than adding another notch for the flight controller to deal with. So let's go into PID tuning. Let's go to filter settings. Let's try bringing this down to like 1.3. Let's do that. And I think we'll be good there. So let's go for one more. I'm not gonna record this, so I'm just gonna go for a flight to just double check this. And then if this is all good, we're gonna jump straight into tuning the P&D, the PIDs. Alright, so now that we've got the filters tuned the way we want them, the next thing that we're going to take a look at here is the P to D balance. And what this is really going to allow us to do is kind of manage bounce back. But honestly, I'm not really even seeing any bounce back. But what we want to do is push performance. And to do that, we want to have as high as a P gain as we want. So I'm going to first start off by moving the slider down. Let's try 0.7. Now the thing is, let's go to enable expert mode just so that we can get as much of our feeling out here. I'm also going to turn the stick response down. I've got feed forward set to 1, basically as low as possible, because we don't want feed forward affecting this part of this tuning process. And I'm going to bring the P&D gain up just because I know for a fact that having D min that low might be a problem. But we'll try let's see, what was the default here? Default was 2325. Okay, so we're gonna bring this down. We'll try 0.7, and we'll bring this up so that our D min is about 2325, so somewhere before. D min off for this part of the tuning process. We enable D min later if we feel like we want to use it, but for this, to tune the P&D balance, we definitely want that off. All right, here we go. So for this is pretty simple. All we're gonna do is just some very sharp, and basically as sharp as we can, rolls and flips, and see if we notice any bounce back or hear anything weird. Again, important thing here is that you should have your rates set the way that you want them. I've got mine set to 1000. That's not what I normally fly at. But I'm doing that because if you're tuning for bounce back, your rates play an important role, because that's basically deciding how fast this thing is turning and how much it needs to arrest itself, right? Okay, this is, I mean, this is seeming really good. I don't hear anything, so let's push it some more. Here we go. Jeez, okay. Maybe there's a tiny bit. Maybe? I don't know, this feels really good though, I'll tell you that. I will check the black box log though, just in case that there is some bounce back that I'm not seeing. But I mean, even if this black box is showing a little bit of bounce back, or overshooting I should say, I'm pretty happy with the way it flies, because remember, I am trying hard to elicit bad behavior, and I would never fly this way in real life. So all right, let's go bring it in. I'm looking at a roll here, and as you can see, it's just got a tiniest bit of overshoot right up here, which I'm completely fine with, because it's not really anything that you can see. And again, I am really slamming the sticks. Here, let's find a flip. So as you can see here, we've got our set point. We've got a tiniest bit of overshoot right here, which again, I'm perfectly fine with. You could, some might want to tune this out, but you can see the P term right here starting it, and then you see the D right just really close by behind it, which is what you want. You don't want that far behind the P. You want them pretty much as close together, at least my understanding is. So this, guys, this is flying really good at this point. Like, I would settle for this, but we're gonna keep pushing it. We're gonna push that PD gain up higher just to see, because the other thing that this is gonna also do is help with prop wash. So let's see where we're at here. All right, so we're gonna go over to our PIDs, and now we're going to push, now that we're happy with the PD balance, we are now going to push the PD gain, and let's just try going into like, screw it, let's just go all the way to the top and see what happens. All right, probably noticing the different color beanie, the different sweater. That's just because it's the next day, fellas. All right, here we go. Let's see if there's any weird sounds pushing the gains. Nope. Okay. Let's turn it up some. And as you can see, we are pretty much maxed out here with the P&D gains. So what we can do next is turn up the master multiplier. And just to, because we want to try and find bad behavior, let's just go up to like 1.3 and let's see what happens. All right, here we go. Listening for any kind of weirdness. Oh, just that hover, I can kind of already hear that. Kind of not liking things. Let's take off. Yeah, I can hear the motors fluttering. Oh, and it's definitely overtuned. I'm gonna bring it back down. This is overtuned. You can hear that at 0 throttle. So just from that noise alone, I know that it's overtuned. We've definitely pushed it too far. But the other thing too is that when I pop up and give it 0 throttle, if I roll, normally it should just, just stay in its place as it rolls. But in this case, when I do it 0 throttle and I give it roll input, it actually, the trajectory starts going and follows that roll, which just that along with the sound means that this is overtuned. So let's go back, bring things back a notch, and let's go on to the next step. All right, so normally when I get to this point, I like to back it off either 2 to 3 steps down. I'm gonna bring it all the way back to just 1 because I think that is our safe spot. And then what I'm also gonna do is just kind of a final tweak, just because from the last logs, there's just that tiny bit of overshooting, which is fine, but hey, we're trying to push this a little bit to the edge, right? So I'm gonna actually bring my PD gallants back up to like 0.6, just to kind of help dampen that overshoot a little bit. I could probably go up 1 more, but we'll leave it there because the next thing that I'm gonna do is, you know what? Let's just bring it up 1 more. Let's just keep it a little bit on the safer side here. And then the next thing I'm gonna do, and the reason why I'm gonna do that is because next I'm gonna re-enable Demon, and then we're going to enable feed forward again. And the reason why I'm enabling D-min is because you want a high D value for sharp stick movements to help with bounce back. But for just general flying, having a lower D value actually, it's more responsive because the D isn't fighting as much during like normal flying and things like that. So I'm gonna bring my stick response back up. I'm just gonna put it in the middle because I'm even though I like this to be snappy, I do still like it to be kind of smooth at the same time. So we're gonna leave that in the middle, and let's go for a flight here and see what this feels like. Ooh. The video feed looks like it's kind of bad right now. It's not good. Oh, my video feed's bad. Why? Okay, it's a little bit better. Let's see if the zero throttle bobble. Yep, that looks good. I don't see a reason to adjust anti-gravity gain. Other than that, despite the bad video, okay, yeah, that video, I don't know what's going on with my video feed, but it felt good before that video feed started to go bad. Not sure what happened there with the video. It looks like I'm gonna have to troubleshoot that, but I did fly enough of it to know that I am pretty happy with the way it feels right now. But I've got the black box log open and I'm taking a look at a roll, and as you can see, the adjusting that P to D balance again, just up 2 notches, has pretty much gotten rid of most of the overshooting that we saw. And then the other thing that I want to point out too here is, let's see what kind of improvement that we got. I believe it was like 38 milliseconds when we first started this. So if we have so let's like set point at 1009. So let's see when we get gyro to about the same. It's right about there, I think. So about 1005, so close enough. Let's zoom in a little bit just so that we can see that. 6-7 milliseconds, that's not bad at all. Let's call it 6 to 8 just to account for a little bit off, because I can't get exactly 1000 on here. So I'd say that's a pretty good improvement. Again, we didn't see any zero throttle bobbling, so anti-gravity is good. I would call this tune pretty good, fellas. So probably the last thing that you could do as far as additional tuning goes would be to just kind of get rid of that last bit of prop wash. But to be honest, in my opinion at least, it's perfectly fine. But if you really wanted to get that little last bit out, what you could also do is bump up your motor idle speed. I don't really like doing that though, because that also affects your hang time, and in my opinion, I'm prioritizing having hang time over prop wash, especially since you can fly around the prop wash if you're just a little bit more gentle with the sticks. And again, it's at a point where it's really freaking good. So that'll wrap up this video. I knew it was a really long one, but hopefully you guys learned a thing or two about how I tune. If you are planning to buy an RTF of the 250, you can pretty much expect to have this tune, if not maybe even an updated tune, just in case I decide to change things up as we get closer to launch time, which is going to be right around the beginning of March. So, alright fellas, I appreciate y'all for sticking around, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.